Hey guys, welcome to Mad Scientist Barbecue. I'm Jeremy Yoder. It is midnight here in Kentucky, and I have a brisket, and I'm going to put it on an offset smoker, and you might think, oh no, the poor guy's going to get no sleep. Well, guess what? Today we're trying a technique that I found out about through Bar-a-bbq, one of the best barbecue restaurants in the world, and it involves cold smoking your briskets for the first 8 hours. So we're going to test it out tonight and see how it goes. This technique is something I learned about from a video put out by Eat More Vegans. He went to Bar-a-bbq and kind of went through all the techniques with Cooper there. And I saw this and I thought, wait a second, I need to try that. Can you cold smoke a brisket and not pay any attention to it for 8 hours and get phenomenal stuff? Because from all the reports I've heard of people who've gone there, their food is incredible. So they must be doing something right. And I'm wondering, is this going to be the technique that sets the barbecue world on fire? No pun intended. But there's no way to know until we test it. So I have a kind of brisket that I cook all the time, Creekstone Choice, and I'm going to season it with just salt and pepper. I'm going to be using pecan wood, which is my favorite kind of wood. And you'll see the technique here in a second. But in my head, I'm thinking, can't possibly work. Kind of reminds me of that guy who does like the TikToks. It's like, ain't no way.
Ain't no way.
Kind of thinking like that. But let's try it out. First, I'm going to trim it, season it with salt and pepper. We're going to put it on, and when it comes time to get the fire ready, I'll show you that. Normally, I already have a fire going, but because of how this technique works, you put the meat on when the smoker is cold. There's no fire in it, and then we're going to add matchlight charcoal. Is matchlit? Matchlight? Don't know. The kind with lighter fluid already in it, which hurts me to my core. Number one, I don't like briquettes, and then briquettes with lighter fluid, I'm like, oh! But I'm willing to be wrong. If I'm wrong about this, then it's totally fine. Then we build a bundle fire of wood splits on top of that matchlight charcoal. Then you light it, and then you wait for the flame to start going, and then you kind of get all your settings adjusted, so very little airflow, and you let it rock and roll all night. So I'm going to get this thing trimmed, I'm going to get it seasoned, and then we're going to build a fire. All right, trimmed and seasoned. I'm gonna put this on a cold Mad Scientist Barbecue Solution Offset Smoker. If you're interested, link in the description. I think it's a great value. If not, hang around for the video. We're gonna find out what happens. This feels weird. With the meat already on, now it's time to start putting stuff in to get our fire ready. Step one, match light charcoal. So I'm gonna use maybe 1/3 of the bag, and then I'm gonna stack wood splits on top of it. Now there are some key differences between what I'm attempting to do here and what they did at Bar A. Number one, this is not a 1,000-gallon smoker. But if it's a technique that only works on 1,000-gallon smokers, then it's not really a benefit to the people cooking in their backyards, which is what I'm trying to find out. Also, because this isn't a 1,000-gallon smoker, it's not going to move the same volume of air as quickly, and it won't hold a temperature quite as low. But I'm going to do my best to kind of miniaturize what I saw in the video and make it work for a backyard offset. Full disclosure, I've tried this 4 times without any meat just to see if I could get it to go for 8 hours. And 2 of those were complete failures. 1 was pretty good success, but it ran a little hot and burned out after maybe 5.5 hours. And then the last time it actually worked and it was still hot after 8 hours, and it was running a temperature of about 185 degrees. So, match light going in first. You can smell the lighter fluid on that. But you put them in, lighter fluid and all. So, we're gonna see. I've always heard it's a huge no-no to use lighter fluid while the food is on. I've always thought it was kind of a myth that, starting your fire with lighter fluid is going to make your food taste like lighter fluid, because those volatile compounds that are given off in the burning aren't going to stick around forever because they're given off as a gas. That's a side issue and a rant for another day, but we're going to test this out. All right, bundle fire. Here we go. And if you're wondering about the size of splits that I'm using, they're 10 to 12 inches long, usually about 2 inches in diameter, thereabouts. So that's a normal size split of wood. He's using the normal size split that he uses in a 1,000-gallon pit. So I think we should be close enough. That's 2. That's 3. That's 4, 5, 6, 7. By the way, I'm not leaving any spaces. I'm not building like a log cabin fire. It's just they're all getting stacked in on top of each other, kind of like a pyramid. I'm probably going to use something like 8 splits or so. I'm using fairly small splits because I don't want the fire to have too much trouble getting going, because the longer I leave it open, the more heat flows through the smoker instead of keeping it at that low smoky temperature. Right there. And then, last but not least, step 1, I'm going to light this, and I need it to burn long enough to get the wood to actually start burning. And so I'm not going to close everything down quite yet. So for the next probably 5 minutes, I'm going to try to get the fire going. Not a huge inferno, but I'm just trying to get the first logs lit. And then I'm going to shut things down and show you all the settings that I'm going to use. As the fire gets going, I'm going to show you how I adjust the damper on the stack. So here I have this about 60% closed. Now this isn't a 1,000-gallon offset, but it does have really good draw. And you have to have draw pulling air in so your fire doesn't die. Also, because we have way too much fuel in there, what we have to do to control temperatures and get a long, low, sustained, smoky heat is we need to limit the amount of oxygen that comes in. We want enough, but not too much. Too much oxygen, we have a raging inferno. Not enough, the fire dies. I've discovered that for this to work, I need this to be about 60% closed. Normally running the smoker, I might be 70% closed, but because I'm closing the firebox door in a few minutes, you're gonna see that it's gonna barely keep going. All I want is a small flame, and I want it to chug along all night long. In the video, they start the fire at 7 p.m. and then return at 3 a.m. So it's 8 hours of the fire burning on its own, doing a cold smoke on the brisket. Some interesting things to note. One is everything smells like lighter fluid and smoke right now. So curious to know how this is going to turn out. And I'm totally willing to be wrong. If this is the greatest technique of all time, I will tell you guys. But I'm telling you guys what you might experience if you try it. Who knows how it's going to shake out, but it obviously works when it's being done on a big smoker at that level. But we're just trying to find out, does it work in a backyard? The fire's going right now, and so I'm going to start closing the door down. I'm going to go with the furthest notch out, and then I'm going to go 1 notch in after about 2 more minutes, and then that seems to hold for hours at a time. One other note about this cold smoking your briskets. One thing I've noticed is that if you're, say, cold smoking salmon, it's not really possible to get the smoke too dirty. At least I haven't found it to be possible. And then if you're cold smoking cheese, it's not really possible to get the smoke too dirty, at least in my experience. So this could be something to do with the temperature at which the smoke makes contact with the meat. Maybe if the temperature at which the smoke makes contact with the meat is low enough, there's no such thing as smoke that's too dirty. But I can tell you from experience, there definitely is a thing where smoke is too dirty and it really tastes really, really bad. But the times I've experienced that, they were being cooked hot and super, super smoky. So I'm going to close this down to the furthest notch, and we're going to wait 2 minutes, and then we're going to set this thing up and walk away. People ask me all the time about the grill Zebo and, well, what about the smoke? You have a roof over there. I don't know that we've ever shown this on camera before, but right now it's coming in real handy. The exhaust fan pulls all the smoke out. Okay guys, it's the next morning. I've got a full night's sleep, basically. So what I want to do is check on this. I looked at the temperature gauge. It's saying about 165 degrees, so all right. But let's see what the fire's doing, and then we're going to look at the brisket inside. So Yeah, we still have a lot of hot coals here. We still have some unburned match light. So the upside is we definitely have coals to keep the fire going. If this looks like it's going to be okay, then we can finish off this cook and then ultimately test it. But let's see what the brisket itself looks like, and I want to know what temperature it is. Oh man, let me turn on the lights. That actually looks really good, but it tells me two things. One is it definitely went hotter than the temperature that I was looking for, probably like 180 degrees to 200 degrees. It was probably running 250 because I don't think it would have gotten that dark of a color. The second thing is it's also possible that we're going to get that dirty smoke flavor if, in fact, the cold smoking thing prevents the dirty smoke from giving a bad flavor. So we might have to try this again. But can it be done? It certainly looks like it. Did we do it right? Maybe not. But let's see the temperature here. I'm going to guess it probably went up and it's probably cooling down now. So I'm going to guess the temperature is 154. Oh, well. So the plan is I'm going to add some splits to the fire, cook at about 275 degrees, and wait until this brisket reaches an internal temp of 175 or so. And then I'm going to wrap it in butcher paper and towel like I always would. We're going to take it to tenderness, then we're going to let it rest, and then ultimately taste it. So I'm really curious to see how this turns out. Since we last checked in, I have taken a shower. We've taken the brisket to doneness. It's rested, and now it's time to taste it. But before we taste it, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Made In. When it comes to recommending cooking tools or cooking equipment to you guys, I take that extremely seriously, and I've done a whole bunch of testing with the Made In products, and for me, it's the absolute best cookware that I've ever used. Their carbon steel is amazing when it comes to cooking smash burgers or searing steaks. It's the only way I sear a steak anymore. Their stainless steel is incredibly good. It's one of my favorite pans to use, and their non-stick gets used for eggs every single day at my house. It is absolutely tremendous cookware. There's a reason there are over 100,000 5-star reviews. There's a reason that it gets used in 3 Michelin star kitchens. There's a reason that people know and love Made In cookware. I have lots of friends who've tried it, and they call me up and say, you know what, you were absolutely right about this Made In cookware. It's phenomenal. And today I have something really cool to show you. This is the Made In carbon steel round griddle. And you might think this is a bit of an odd shape, but when you realize that there are a lot of kettle grills that this will fit perfectly on, you're going to know exactly why it is the shape that it is. It's got handles that are above it so you can place it down. This carbon steel is naturally nonstick. It's made in Sweden by people who've been making carbon steel since the late 1800s. Made in, you should equate with craftsmanship and quality. This has a lot of room. You can sear a bunch of steaks, make a bunch of smash burgers. You can shallow fry. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with a griddle of this size that I can't wait to try out. I think my next video might be a smash burger video, and I can use this round griddle and I can use this burger press. If you've never used carbon steel, think of it like cast iron, but better. It's going to be lighter, more ergonomic, in this case, better designed, and the performance is absolutely unmatched. I know that you guys are going to love them if you try them out. Been using them for years, and they come with my absolute highest recommendation. Click on the link in my description to check out Made In's carbon steel and their other cookware. Click on that link in the description to save on your order. All right, guys, here we go. It's time to test this out. I'll just say at the outset that this thing looks absolutely phenomenal. The bark looks great. I mean, it looks really, really good. 2 caveats. One is I was an idiot. I didn't leave any kind of probe in the pit to monitor the temperature. That was my fault. But by the temperature that this was when I came back out first thing in the morning, I think it definitely cooked hotter than I had intended. So that could throw off the flavor, could mean that it's going to be an over-smoked flavor when otherwise it wouldn't be. But also, just the smell that's kind of lingering around, like in the smoker, and kind of the smell coming off the brisket is a different smell than what I'm used to with usual offset barbecue. So the only thing we're really trying to figure out right now is what kind of taste does this put on it. The brisket looks beautiful, but if it doesn't taste good, then it's not really worth it. But let's find out. See what it looks like. Well, looks pretty good. I'll take that. That's pretty good, man. Look at the, wow, the ultra low temp. This is a choice brisket. Nothing super fancy. That's pretty darn good. Now look at this side. pretty amazing. What I'm thinking is, just because we want to get a sense of the smoke flavor, I'm just going to cut off my favorite bite on the whole thing. Burn ends from the point side here and see how we did. Man, these look great. Okay. I gotta be honest with you, the smell I don't like. It almost smells chemically. Taste it. It was so gross. That was so gross. So I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I had to spit that out. It was one of the worst bites of barbecue I've ever had. But I don't think this was faithfully executed the way they do it at Bar A. I think that they're doing super smoky smoke, but at lower temperatures. I'm almost certain that while I was asleep, the temperature on the smoker got super high to something like 300 degrees. So what I think I have to do is do this again, but try to make sure I stay below 200 degrees on the temperature that the dirty smoke is going through the chamber, because I didn't care for this at all, and that is putting it very mildly. So I think from this we've learned what happens if you do it incorrectly. So I'm gonna go grab another brisket, trim that up, and try this again, except this time I'm gonna be out here with the fire to make sure that the temperature doesn't climb too high. But we gotta give this another try, because I think this just kind of tastes like charcoal-y lighter fluid, and I don't think anybody has reported to me that what stuff tastes like at Bar A tastes like charcoal or lighter fluid. So I'm gonna get another one, try it again. Okay, it's another day, another brisket. We're gonna try to recreate the same process, except this time I'm gonna be out here making any kind of micro adjustments to keep the temperature of the smoker between 180 and 200. So in the first attempt, definitely got too hot. Let's see if we can do it the correct way, or at least as close as we can do in a backyard pit to getting the same kind of results that they're getting at Bar A. Fire's going. I'll be out here this time instead of sleeping. And so we're gonna check in 8 hours. I wanna make sure I'm not opening or closing it. I'm trying to recreate that environment as best as I possibly can. So low temperature, really smoky, always an open flame. We'll see how it goes. All right, we've exhausted the fuel that we started with. We haven't quite made it 8 hours yet, but I think we put on plenty of smoke. And I was out here, I was checking, I was kind of micro adjusting the damper and the opening of the door, just keeping it between 180 and 200, nice and smoky, and with always at least a tiny little flame going. One of the things that I have noticed is there is a bunch of just kind of goop that's collecting on the damper on the stack. Let me see if I can show you some of that. Okay. There's this goopy tar-like liquid that I've scraped off multiple times because it started running down the stack. So I don't know if that's possibly concerning or not. I don't know if it's, particularly rich in carcinogens. I don't know if it's totally fine. And I don't know, but it's something you should know. And then on the inside of the smoker, this all has that kind of wet tar-like stuff. It's sticky. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but to me this looks way shinier. Typically when I run the pit like I normally do, it's black, but there's a dull black. There's not this kind of tar-like shiny finish. I don't know exactly what that is, but I think we put plenty of smoke on this brisket. So from this point on, we're gonna run like a regular cook. So I'm gonna take that brisket and cook it unwrapped to about 180, 185 degrees or so, wrap it in butcher paper and tallow, and then take it to tenderness. So I'm gonna start running this fire like I always would, and we're gonna see how this thing turns out. Last time, it turned out looking like $1,000,000, but tasting not all that great. So we're gonna see if we can make this work in a backyard offset. You guys might notice that it does have some color, but it doesn't have that nearly black color like the last one did, because it's never reached a high enough internal temperature. The outside hasn't reached that temperature. So with this, you could actually take it probably and put it in the oven and just raise it to final temperature, and it would darken significantly. But we're gonna run the rest of this cook like normal in an offset smoker, doing our best to recreate what they do at Bar A, but with very different equipment. All right, this brisket is ready to wrap, and I want you guys to be able to see it before I wrap it up in case anything changes after it's wrapped and reaches tenderness. We're not gonna go through all the process of wrapping and showing all that on camera because you've seen it a bunch of times before, but what we really wanna find out is how does this taste? Right now it looks really good, and we gotta see if it tastes really good because the last one looked like $1,000,000, but didn't really taste great. I wanna see if this one's different, but let's take a look. All right, we'll wrap it up, finish it off, and we'll check in with you tomorrow morning. One other thing I should note right now is the smell coming off of this is very different than the last one we did. The last one really smelled kind of chemical-like. This one smells more roasted. You get kind of a faint whiff of the chemical smell, but this one actually smells really tasty. You guys can see it, like we've begun to render the fat well. You know, it's one of the key things we're looking for, so. Yeah, wrap it up, get it tender, taste it tomorrow.
What are you doing?
Trying to get these gloves all the way on.
Because it's humid and there was a tornado?
That too, got a little sketchy there. Luckily we were just holding the meat this morning and not trying to cook anything out here. All right, this has rested overnight. We decided to go with a foil boat instead of doing traditional paper and tallow wrap. I was partially inspired because yesterday I was wearing a Chud's Barbecue shirt. He's the one who kind of made the whole world know about the foil boat method. It's a great tool, and in my experience, it's just a little bit less smoky than some of the other methods, and I thought maybe if we can dial down some of the smokiness, it might be just exactly what we're looking for. So, I'll take some of this tallow. You gotta say, oops, 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 oh no, what a mistake, oops. Oh man, what a tragedy. Didn't mean to spill that. All right, so one thing is for certain, doing it this way makes the brisket look like $1,000,000. I mean, just, if you went to a Central Texas barbecue joint and you saw this, you'd be like, oh man, I'm gonna eat some good stuff today. I think this looks tremendous. And so really, the only thing we're looking for at this point is how does it taste? So let's do some of the traditional slices here. We'll cut it in half, take a look. Can't see what it looks like, but I'm guessing it looks good. Oh yeah, it looks pretty good stuff. And the sun decided to poke through. So this is what the burnt ends are gonna look like. So looking really good. Let's taste it. Smell is good. I'm not getting the same kind of ashtray type of smell. Okay, this is definitely miles better than the last attempt because I stayed out here the whole time and made sure that I was making any kind of adjustment to keep a small flame going the whole time. This definitely tastes better. I still get a little bit of the dirty smoke flavor, but it's not nearly as off-putting. So I think that I gotta try it again. Let me try this end cut. That's pretty good. Try it again. All right, after tasting that, I think I have my thoughts. This is miles better than the first one, but you still get a little bit of the dirty smoke flavor that I don't particularly care for. If I went to a place and had this, would I think it's gross? No, I'd say it's very good, but it's not in the like amazing kind of category of flavor. I think for this method to work, you probably need a couple things to really make it turn out the way it does at bar-a-bbq. I think probably an insulated firebox like the one that they have is going to be really important to retain heat so that combustion temperature is going to influence the types of flavors that you're producing in the smoke. So the temperature at which combustion takes place, I think has a big impact on the kinds of flavors that you produce. And so we use as a proxy open flame oftentimes to figure out what kind of temperature are we working with. But really, I think it's the combustion temperature that has a big influence that we don't usually take into account. So on an insulated firebox, a lot of times people will say, oh, you know, I can't get enough smoke flavor. I think with an insulated firebox, doing this where it would normally be too much smoke flavor, you kind of strike a balance and produce something that's really, really good. So I think you probably need at least a 500-gallon pit, maybe a 1,000-gallon pit, and the firebox has to be insulated, and then I think you'll probably get similar results. I just don't think that this is feasible on a backyard cooker, though I could be completely wrong. Obviously, at Bar A, they're doing something right, and I mean, I've just heard nothing but glowing reviews, so I could just be messing this up. And if that's the case, I'll make another video and show you guys maybe the right way if I ever figure that out. I just know for me, this brisket looks like $1,000,000, but doesn't taste like the best brisket ever. This is still very good, but there are definitely other methods that I would prefer, at least on a backyard smoker. I think that this is definitely worth trying if you think you could pull it off. I just know that for me, at least today, with the wood that I have, the smokers that I have, I couldn't get it dialed in just the way that I want. What you guys don't know is that off camera, I've been running fires in various different pits, seeing if I could get this method to hold temperature at, say, 180 degrees for multiple hours, 5, 6, 7 hours. But I found only one backyard pit that could hold the temperature and keep it smoky and just kind of stay constant for 5, 6, 7 hours. And hopefully I can show you guys that very soon. And I think this method probably came from just a way to go home and get some sleep and keep the fire not dead and give you a head start when you come back to finish the briskets. It definitely works for them. It just looks like sometimes great methods won't necessarily translate to different sizes or different kinds of cookers. And I think that's the case that we have here. So I think if you take the approach of, for the first several hours of the cook, keeping a very smoky fire but still an open flame, and you continue the cook on, I think you could probably get tremendous results. Also, for me at least, I don't like the thought of having lighter fluid burning, going through the smoke chamber, potentially getting on the meat. I'm not saying that it's bad or that it's good. I just, on a personal level, it bugs me. But if it works, it works. If you want to do it, go for it. So those are my thoughts. Also, I can't wait to go to Bar A and try their brisket and see what that tastes like, because I've heard universally positive reviews of that place, and I'm sure that they're doing something right. I just think maybe, one, I'm not doing it right. Two, I don't have the right size pit to make it work. But in the very near future, I want to try this on my own 1,000-gallon smoker that has an insulated firebox, and we'll see if that's going to be the deciding factor that makes it work. Thank you guys for watching. If you have tried this, let me know in the comments and tell me how it turned out for you. If you're thinking about trying it, let me know what you're going to do differently, or maybe you're going to try it the exact same way. And then lastly, I don't have a monopoly on barbecue knowledge, and it could be that I'm just doing something wrong. And if somebody in the comments knows what I'm doing wrong, please let me know, because I'm happy to try this again, because this method seems awesome if we can just get it dialed in to do exactly what we want. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel for more content. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, now known as X, and Patreon, @MadScientistBarbecue. I'll see you guys next time.